Thank you for joining us on AC 24/7. I'm Aaron Dean. Texas and federal authorities are still investigating the motives of the shooter at an Allen outlet mall. As the investigation continues, more names and faces of the victims killed in the deadly rampage are being released. The Advocate Channel is in Texas with more.
He was the kindest and sweetest, most caring man you'd ever interact with.
Christian Lacour, a beloved 20-year-old Allen Mall security guard, and Aishwarya Tadikonda, a young engineer from McKinney, Texas, among the 8 victims killed on Saturday. And as the lives lost come into focus, so does the potential ideology and motive of the gunmen who took them. Investigators believe the 33-year-old shooter killed by an Allen police officer may have been motivated by right-wing extremist views. A law enforcement source close to the investigation says the gunman wore an RWDS insignia, possibly meaning Right-Wing Death Squad, an insignia worn in recent years by members of various extremist groups, say legal experts.
It shouldn't be surprising to anyone that we're seeing that this shooter engaged in anti-Semitic or racist, white supremacist sort of posts in his social media.
Investigators are combing through the shooter's online profiles and items that may have been collected during weekend search warrants. Some neighbors seem surprised.
Nothing ever showed me any signs of, hey, this guy seems to be the kind of guy that, would do what he did.
I know that there are a lot of, let's say, early stories about the shooter out there. People should not jump to conclusions because there's a lot of conflicting information about him.
Governor Abbott urged patience in the wait for answers.
In the coming days, the public will be much better informed about why and how this happened.
U.S. officials are preparing for a surge of migrants at the southern border, and there are bipartisan worries that the country isn't ready to handle the situation. The rise in people seeking to get into the U.S. comes in anticipation of the end of Title 42, the U.S. rule that enabled border officers to quickly expel migrants during the COVID pandemic. House Republicans are set to vote on a border security package that codifies some of the programs from the Trump administration. If it passes, it's not expected to get through the Democratic-led Senate.
I know some folks want to wait and see every I dotted and T crossed and say that he had a background, he'd been arrested, he was homeless, he was this. None of that was known to the man choking him. This man needs to be prosecuted. Because what you will do if you do not prosecute him, in my judgment, is you will set a standard of vigilantism that we cannot tolerate. The precedent alone is a threat to all of us.
That was Reverend Al Sharpton speaking, and the father of subway chokehold victim Jordan Neely is demanding answers as another day passes without an arrest in his son's death. Andre Zachary told the New York Daily News, quote, "I just want something to be done." Neely, a 30-year-old homeless man with a history of mental illness, was killed on a subway after another rider put him in a chokehold. The Advocate Channel's Jason Carroll reports.
More calls for justice as Manhattan's District Attorney Alvin Bragg continues his investigation into the death of 30-year-old Jordan Neely, the man who died after being placed in a chokehold by another passenger on a New York City subway.
There was a homeless man that was talking about his needs. He was choked to death.
I don't want to call it vigilantism. I want to say it was an attempt to subdue someone who, yes, was mentally ill.
The 24-year-old former Marine who placed Neely in the chokehold was interviewed by police after the incident and released, according to a law enforcement source. He has hired criminal defense attorney Thomas Kenneth to represent him. Kenneth, who lost the race to become New York's district attorney to Bragg, confirmed the former Marine is his client, but had no further comment.
I do want to acknowledge how horrific it was to view a video of Jordan Neely being killed for being a passenger on our subway trains. His family deserves justice.
The passenger who recorded this disturbing video says Neely had been acting erratically before the incident and that he shouted, "I don't care if I die. I don't care if I go to jail. I don't have any food." But he says he did not see Neely try to attack anyone on the train.
We arrive at the station, the doors open, all the people run away, and the guys stay in this position about 8 minutes.
CNN has not been able to independently confirm what happened leading up to the incident, nor how long Neely was restrained. The law firm representing Neely's family released a statement saying, "We have people being killed for ringing the wrong doorbell, pulling in the wrong driveway, and screaming out in desperation on the subway. We cannot let that stand." Neely had been a dancer and a Michael Jackson impersonator in Times Square and on New York subways. He had struggled with mental illness and had a history of prior arrests. Family and friends say Neely was deeply impacted by his mother's murder in 2007.
He never got over that. There was a lot of pain inside that was unresolved.
In a city still struggling with subway crimes and strapped mental health facilities, the circumstances surrounding Neely's death has generated debate among those still trying to understand what happened.
There is definitely a blurry line of what is too excessive, what is not.
I don't think you can go around putting people in chokeholds.
I'm afraid there's no answer.
New York City workers were trying to help Jordan Neely. A source says that Neely's name was on the top 50 list of homeless people identified as having acute needs. That means the city's Department of Homeless Services was aware of his struggles and tried to get the services and help that he needed. And switching gears, more than 600,000 federal student loan borrowers from the public sector have gotten their debts forgiven since October 2021. That was after the Biden administration expanded the eligibility of the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Another 6,000 borrowers in the program will see their loans discharged soon. The Department of Education says that altogether, those cancellations will total $42 billion of federal student debt. And speaking of students, media mogul Oprah Winfrey dropped by her alma mater, Tennessee State University, as the keynote speaker for the spring commencement. Take a listen.
Every family member from generations back who helped make this day possible, you owe them a rising. And your job is to come on up to the rising, to meet the rising of your life, and know that your crown has been paid for. Put it on your head and wear it. Congratulations.
Well, it's the #1 killer of men and women in the U.S., according to the CDC. But there are ways to reduce the risk of heart disease. Mandy Gaither shares how some of the most popular diets rank when it comes to heart health.
Having a heart-healthy lifestyle means regular exercise and not smoking, but what you eat is also a critical key.
Diet is the leading risk factor for death and disability nationwide for 7 of the 10 leading causes of death.
Maya Valdivelu is co-author of a scientific statement ranking popular diets based on which most closely follow guidance for heart health put out in 2021 by the American Heart Association. Taking the top spot, the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. You eat more veggies, fruits, and low-fat dairy foods, and limit foods high in saturated fat, and limit sodium intake to about a teaspoon of table salt a day. Eating patterns that didn't stack up as well included very low-carb diets such as Atkins, various keto diets like the well-formulated ketogenic diet or WFKD. These were in the bottom tier of the rankings due to their emphasis on red meat, whole dairy, and saturated fats, as well as limited fruit and vegetable intake. I'm Mandy Gaither.
And thank you for joining us for AC 24/7. For more, go to theadvocatechannel.com. Subscribe to our YouTube page for AC 24/7. I'm Aaron D.